Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me today for Coffee and Closings, where we talk about all things real estate related while enjoying a nice cup of coffee. Today I am blessed to be with Marisa Vigil.
Yes.
It's taken me this long. That might be the first time I've ever got that right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to dive into a little bit about what she does in her real estate profession and while enjoying some coffee. Now let's start with the coffee. Now you picked this coffee out.
Yes, I did. So Starbucks is the best coffee in my opinion, not sponsored. And this is a blonde Americano. So it's just like espresso. Okay. It's blonde espresso, just with hot water.
Okay.
Just completely black.
So I don't normally drink hot coffee just ever. Yeah. I'm an iced coffee person through and through. Which might mean I'm not a real coffee person, but I like to think I am. So, okay. So cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming on. I don't know. That's normally a chug thing, I think. Okay. So it tastes kind of like when I drink coffee and it gets a little watered down, and because I put ice in it. And then if I haven't had it in a while, that's what it tastes like. And it's hot. Mm-hmm. So I already feel like I'm getting hotter.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's basically what it is. It's just hot water. And there's no flavoring. Like, you don't have cream in it. So there's not, any more flavor or anything. So.
Okay.
Do you like it? What's 1 out of 10?
I do.
What is it?
1 out of 10. I'm going to take another sip. It's not bad. So I like black coffee. Like after I have my first cup of coffee is very like done up. It's dressed up. It's my going out coffee. It's got the creams and the sugars. But after that, I switched to black coffee. So I'm going to say for me, I'm going to say a 7.
Okay.
Okay. So it's
That's
a 7.
higher than I thought it would be.
That's what and this is, again, is what did we say this was?
This one is grande, which means medium if you don't speak Starbucks language.
Okay.
But it's a medium blonde Americano.
A medium blonde Americano. Like I like my women. I just felt like that's what was going to be said.
So there's different kinds of espresso. There's just like a normal espresso, and there's a blonde espresso. I actually don't know like what the real difference is, but as far as taste, the blonde is very smooth.
Okay.
Like it kind of, you can just it's easy to drink. It just tastes better, I think.
Okay. I like it. So now that we have covered our coffee,
yes,
let's learn a little bit about you. So you grew up in a real estate family.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about your experience growing up in real estate and having a top producing mother as a role model.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Colorado, and both sides of my family have always been in like the housing industry. So my dad's side, builders, contractors, concrete, all of that stuff. And then my mom's side, they're all realtors and things like that. So that was kind of cool. Mom's been in the business for 21 years. And I think number 2 team in the city.
Oh, wow.
Out of like 500 or 600 agents or something. So that's pretty cool. I grew up always going with her on showings and listing appointments and things like that. I used to organize her forms back when we had paper forms, like before everything was electronic. Yeah. And so I would put all of these forms like lead-based paint disclosure. I've heard all my life. Like I knew exactly what that was. Amendments to extend the contract, like all of those things. And so I used to just organize those forms in her office during high school, like during the summers. I would answer the phones for her and I'm taking messages, things like that. So it was cool.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And so then when did you decide to get into real estate yourself?
Well, as soon as I turned 18, I went to real estate school in Colorado.
Okay.
That one, the Colorado requirements are a lot higher than they are here. And so that was a 6-week class, like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty lengthy. But I was only doing that not to do the business, but just to send referrals to my mom and make money.
Nice. Okay.
But so I actually didn't decide to do real estate until I got to Tennessee, which was 2 years ago, like this past weekend. So I've been in Tennessee for 2 years. Yep.
Okay, cool. So then you come to Tennessee, the Knoxville area, and you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do full time, or was there more to it than that?
Well, I had to build, well, and I'm still building my book of business,
Okay.
right? Just like building my sphere and things like that. So I couldn't jump straight into it because I didn't feel comfortable with the amount of money I had in savings, to be able to just go full-time commission. So I had to find some jobs to do, meet people, which was a great way to meet people.
Yeah.
Yeah, slowly transitioned into where I am now.
Okay. And speaking of where you are now, I guess that is around the time that we got introduced, or we
met about
were
a
connected?
year ago, which was a year after I moved here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, you were hustling multiple jobs, right?
Yeah. So when I first moved to Tennessee, I was working at I'm going to say government agency. It is a lot different than it sounds. And so that was just like an administrative job where I was answering phones, things like that, just things I'm good at. So I was doing that for about 4 months, transitioned into like an insurance admin position with an insurance agent local here in Knoxville. And during that time, I actually started to get buyers and was showing properties. And then, of course, I saw the posting for the Sands Group looking for showing assistants. And I'm like, well, heck, I need some practice, so I might as well do this. Plus, you're going to give me some money. So
yeah, it was a win-win at that time.
Absolutely.
So, okay, just so no one gets lost, what is the showing assistant?
Okay, so a showing assistant is someone who is licensed in the state that they're showing houses in, and they are going in place of the agent that the clients are working with. So when Robbie has clients, Marisa will go with the clients to these houses in place of Robbie to open the doors for them and show them the houses.
Yeah. So the reason it's a win-win is because a lot of them are newer agents, because as an agent you get to help newer folks because they get experience, plus they get money. You pay them $25-$30 per door that they open, and the agent is able to leverage their time a little bit better. So it really is a win-win. Mm-hmm. And in MREA book, I think is it like step 2 or 3 somewhere in there, maybe 4 or 5, but it's one of the first things that you get is an agent to help you on the buy side, because buyers are time consuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have buyers that are looking at 30 plus houses, which is not normal, it's very abnormal.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you have a crazy hot market like we do, you have to just show that many houses, and one person physically, like literally, can't work with that many people at the same time without leveraging. So yeah, it's great.
And so then you go, okay, so you're showing homes, and then we had a vacancy on our team for a different role. Mm-hmm. And so you built out that program for us, and that was what role?
So that was transaction coordinator. And what a transaction coordinator does is they handle paperwork, deadlines, things like that, earnest money, just making sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks in these transactions once they go under contract all the way to the closing table. And so,
So we've never talked about this before, but so you were part of that 80-20 principle in that you helped out with that, you helped out with that 80% mm-hmm. of the job. So do you care to share what that 20-80 principle is?
Yeah. So everything in the world runs off of that 80-20 principle. 80% of the coffee that people buy is sold by 20% of the companies. Like mm-hmm. everything kind of just flows off of this 80-20 principle. 80% of the market share in anywhere is sold or is held by 20% of the agents. Like I said, everything is 80-20. So in real estate, as far as like transactions and the business, 20% of the agent's job is to lead generate, meet new people, things like that. The other 80% is writing the contracts, going to the closings, showing houses, things like that. And so I was able in both roles, the showing assistant plus transaction coordinator, I was able to leverage your 80% to take that off of your plate so you can focus on the 20.
Yeah, and you knew the 80-20 principle so well that has helped you in your current role with the team. So what is your current role with the team? So you've gone through moving to Knoxville, being a showing assistant, to transaction coordinator, to building out what is now one of the top transaction programs that there is, because we work with all of them, right? Or most of them, and to now being where you currently are, and that is.
Yeah, so I'm currently doing a success manager, success coach position, which is basically just, holding our agents accountable to make sure that they are on track to meet their goals that they set, and just be that support system for training, answering questions, just their support.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked about it a lot, but for someone who is thinking about getting into real estate, how important is that success role? And does everyone get, do you sign up with a realty company and then you get a success coach, or kind of dive into that a little bit?
So coaches are extremely important. They will skyrocket your business because they're actually teaching you what your 20% is. And also not necessarily how to do things like as far as details, but how to get where you want to go. And they can guide you. And to answer your question, no, not everyone has a coach. Coaches usually cost money. Well, they always cost money. And most of the time, if you're going through a coach, like through your brokerage or something, the coaches will take like 10 or 15% of every check, or, every commission check that you receive. And that's how, the payment is dispersed. Now, the Sands Group has a little bit of a different, thing. So I'm paid hourly to do this success coach position to help our agents, not at the cost of the agents. So the team kind of, absorbs those costs. So essentially it's quote unquote free for the agents to use me, so I can help. But they're gaining so much more value.
Yeah. So I've always, since I could afford one, because like you said, it wasn't provided when I was, it wasn't a service that was given to me. So, okay, trying to formulate the question in my head. How far can a coach take me from, okay, I'm brand new into real estate, to where I'm the go-to person? What does that path look like? Or is everyone, let's back up. Is everyone the same? Is every person, because our team is, growing. And so is the way you coach one person the same as the next person, or is it more individual? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's definitely different. Obviously, people are unique. Everyone is different. So the way that you coach somebody is going to be tailored to that person individually, based on their personality, based on how they learn, how they receive constructive criticism, things like that, even to go as far as their view of themselves. So all of those things have to be taken into account, including their actual stage in real estate, what their career is looking like, what stage it's in. So if they're a brand new agent, obviously they're going to need to learn the basics of how do you get business? Who do I call? What do I say? And how do I get paid, basically?
Yeah.
Then, there's other, once you get out of that phase and you can close a couple out, then we would go into this second tier, or whatever. We don't really have a name for it. Maybe we should.
I like tier 2.
Okay. So tier 2, you're pretty comfortable with the process, but maybe you're not. You can see what your life can look like, but you're not there yet.
Yeah.
Because of, maybe you can just increase the number of transactions that you're doing, or, things like that. And so at that point, if you know all this stuff, it's really just honing in and seeing what you're good at and doing more of that. If you're good with working with your sphere and that brings you the most business and that's the most profitable for you, then let's just focus on that.
Yeah.
And then let's see what your goals are and make a plan to get there.
So with me, in our one-on-ones, you were able to take my business, see where it all comes from, because a large part of what you do is you have to track everything, right?
Oh,
and you have to make sure that people are tracking it.
Yes.
Because you can't hold someone accountable if they're not sure on their numbers. So you helped me see where my business was coming from, and then guide me into really focusing on that instrument of business. What do your coaching sessions typically look like in a one-on-one?
Yeah. So what they should look like, and they don't always look like this, just because everything is, again, so unique with individuals and with their business and the transactions and their clients. Gosh, there's so many variables. But what it typically looks like is, okay, we go through their numbers, tracking. You mentioned tracking their numbers, and I don't know if you talked about this before, but like the reason that we track your numbers is to see where you've been, and if it worked, and if it did, we'll duplicate it, and if it didn't, we'll change it, or tweak it, maybe not change it completely. So we want to see, like, okay, how many calls did you make? How many people did you talk to? How many appointments did you set? How many listing appointments, buyers appointments did you go on? Did you get signed or active? How many? We need to track all of these things. It's almost like an odometer on your car. If you didn't have an odometer, how would you know how far you've gone if it didn't say, oh yeah, my car's at 85,000 miles or something? It's like, okay, I have no frame of reference. So we need that frame just to see, okay, this is what we've done, this is what worked, and this is what didn't. So typically the meetings would go, okay, show me your numbers and how did you feel about last week? What went well? And then what didn't go so well? What do you think you could have done better? And then we look at their pipeline, which is a tool that kind of just like tracks your business for the next 2 weeks, 3 months, year, 18 months, things like that. So
what is the hardest part about being a success coach or production coach?
Unfortunately, and maybe not unfortunately, we get to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I say fortunately because sometimes that's the best thing that people can have.
Yeah.
To, have that forceful nudge into, okay, these are your goals and this is where you are and you're on track to not meet your goals. So let's, figure it out. So sometimes it's like, okay, this person is not receiving this well. They're, hard-headed and however you want to say, but it's needed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a parent and child relationship. Like you have to discipline them, and discipline is good because then they learn and they know what not to do next time.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that's probably the hardest part, is just being the bad guy. Also because like sometimes I feel like I just want people to like me, and so I'll let them slide if I'm like,
yeah, me too, for sure.
I'm like, okay, you didn't, get something under contract. It's okay. But then as our coach, our leadership coach, Roseanne says, like, it's not about me. It's not about the agent that I'm coaching. It's about the people that they're supporting.
Yeah.
So when I think about letting somebody slide on something, then I think about, okay, if they don't do this, then who's going to, what's the opposite word of benefit? Who's going to like have a disadvantage because this person didn't do what they were supposed to? Like, who's going to take that?
Yeah. So when you look at me and you're coaching me, you're not just looking at me, you're looking at my wife and kids who are at home right now. So if I don't track or don't report my numbers or report something inaccurately, it's affecting them, even though I might not see it in the day-to-day. Because one thing that I think you could probably back me up on is agents. There's a couple different types of agents. You have ones that don't come into the office at all. You have ones that do come in but don't do any work while they're here, because you feel like you're at a job but you're not doing your job. And then you have agents that actually put in the work and are physically present. And so I know that sometimes in the past I have definitely fell to that. I was always here, throughout real estate. I've always shown up because I treated it like a job. But there's times whenever you get sidetracked or you want to get sidetracked, it's not always fun to make those calls. And you have to be the bad person to step in and kind of redirect or re-guide them. Now, one thing about you that I've also been impressed with is you're also in production. So can you speak a little bit about being a coach in production and how that helps you to be a better coach?
Yeah. Honestly, it's like, it makes me like, they're not going to do what I say if I'm not doing what I say, or they're not going to do what I say. Not that I'm being demanding, and they won't follow my coaching instructions if I'm not practicing what I'm preaching, basically. And so I feel like I'm held to an even higher expectation, because now they're not only seeing how I coach, but they're seeing how I actually produce. And so if I'm not in here making my calls, or I'm just like screwing around playing Minecraft on my computer or something, then like, why should they,
Yeah.
So it's crazy, because whenever I think of a situation like that, I always think of, okay, let's put this in like normal job terms, because real estate's not a normal job. It's not 9 to 5. It should be a 9 to 5 job, because like, if you're good at real estate, you're going to make it a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
But so I was a server at Cracker Barrel, and I had a manager who was, so I'm sure that everyone has heard, like, there's a difference between a boss and a leader, right?
Correct. Yeah.
The boss is the person sitting on the chariot, like, whipping the horses, and just is being carried by the employees, the people. And a leader is at the front line leading the people. And so I had this manager at Cracker Barrel who was that leader.
Oh, okay.
He was.
I thought you were going in a different
well,
direction.
we had to. There was one, and she was the boss. She was like, "Hey, do this, do this, do this." Which, I mean, granted, it's her job.
Yeah.
But like, also there are different ways that you can go about it. So this gentleman, if he saw that the servers were completely slammed, and there was food waiting to be delivered to a table, and like all the servers are nowhere in sight, like they're taking orders, they're doing whatever they're doing, like he would pick up the food and deliver it to a table. And versus like a couple other managers who are, they're like, hey, somebody get this food, like this food's gonna get cold, the cooks are gonna have to remake it, like somebody, just like yelling and just blaring. I'm like, okay, like, you're obviously not doing anything, so why don't you pick up the tray? Not that it's their job, but it's like, that's the difference between a boss and a leader. And so going back to real estate, it's like, okay, am I going to be the person on the chariot just like whipping our agents into shape while I sit back and do nothing? Or am I going to be leading the charge?
Yeah.
So one of my goals is to completely outproduce all of our agents, just because that's what a leader does.
Yeah.
Right. Like
absolutely.
they go above and beyond and still can handle other things. I can still handle the coaching responsibilities, because if they don't have someone to follow, how are they going to be able to dream that big?
Yeah.
I guess, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. So for those, as we kind of come to a close here, for those that don't have a real estate coach, and again, everybody needs one, in my opinion, whether they're on your team or you seek outside help. I know that I've had several coaches that were not part of an organization that I was like through my brokerage, but everyone needs some guidance, in my opinion. But for those who are in real estate, what is some maybe tips or pointers, that you could direct towards them to help them maybe bump up their production just a little bit? What are some of your quick coaching tips?
Yeah. So definitely track your numbers. That's where it starts, because you don't know what you're doing wrong if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
But also, not to be on the negative side, but you don't know what you're doing right if you don't track your numbers. So it has its positives and negatives. So I'd say that's number one. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. There are systems out there that can track numbers, very clean, very user friendly.
So sorry. So we use Sisu, but we started out in Excel spreadsheets, and then have tried CT, which was like $25, and then Sisu's a little more expensive, but Sisu's a lot more expensive. You gave me the look like, yeah, Sisu's a lot more expensive, but it still does the same things in a different format.
Yeah.
But, okay, so tracking your numbers, definitely. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. And that doesn't just include how many calls you're making, how many contacts you're making, how many appointments you're setting. That also includes your transactions, the clients, where the clients are coming from. So like your source, whether it's coming from friends or family, an online lead maybe you purchased, a referral from somebody. Where are these leads coming from? Also the price point that they're buying in, like what price point. So it's tracking tons of different types of numbers. You don't have to get too far into those details right away, but just starting with the basics is pretty good. So I'd say tracking your numbers, focusing on your 20%, definitely.
Yeah.
Finding out what your 20% is.
Is it the same for everybody or no?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, in the real estate industry, what you should be doing is lead generating.
Which means?
So contacting people, asking if they're needing to buy, sell, or invest, meeting new people. I think I just said that. Basically that's it.
Yeah.
So,
so real estate for folks that are new or maybe struggling with production, real estate's not hard. Like being a real estate agent is not essentially hard as far as the activities to do. It's just doing the right activities, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because there are a bajillion different things that you could be doing.
Yeah. I love to do what Lauren does. I love that. But I haven't done that in like a year. Because Lauren can do it at a higher level, do it better, and I can focus. I can either use my time for my family and or generating more business.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
It's my choice every day, right? If I'm going to work hard on the right activities or if I'm going to screw off.
Oh, yeah. And that's like one of the biggest things that is an advantage, but also a disadvantage to being self-employed. Is like you don't have a boss over your shoulder saying, okay, do this, go home. Here's your check type thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to come in and decide what I'm going to do today, what's going to be the most beneficial, the most productive for me to do today. And yeah, you are going to have those off days where you're like, dang, I do not feel like doing this. But making sure that lead gen, your 20% is always top priority.
Okay, so doing the right activities is obviously important. Can maybe just one more, just totally putting you on the spot. Is there anything else?
Get coaching.
Get coaching, yeah.
Yeah, like that's one of the biggest things. And even if it's not a legit coach, if you don't have coaching with your brokerage, maybe go look for an outside source of coaching, which doesn't always have to cost money. I mean, YouTube, of course, everything is free on there. Well, for the most part. But just looking at videos of, I don't know who the biggest coaches are, like Tom Ferry and Brian Buffini. So my mom always did coaching when I was growing up. And so Brian Buffini, I remember going to his conferences, his mastermind conferences and things like that all over the country, just learning how to be a better agent, but also how to just serve your clients better as well. And it's, that costs money, but you can find coaching.
Go ahead, sorry.
It doesn't always have to be, like I said, monetary, but you could just find an agent who is producing at the level that you want and just literally duplicate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like just ask them. And I actually did this to one of our agents in our office. I was like, hey, I see that you're doing a lot of production. Can I just like follow you around for a day?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Like come with me on showings, come with me on listing appointments, things like that. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So the people, you'll notice that people who are successful as far as what society deems successful, but they're doing well in real estate, you'll notice that they are more than willing to share what they're doing and how they're doing it because they're just willing to give.
It's
they have that
abundance
spirit.
mindset,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They just have that spirit, like you said, of abundance where they're like, I know that if I teach you and I help you, yes, you're going to have some of this market share or the clients, in the area, but I'm also going to have enough. Like we're not going to be stingy about it. So, just find an agent that you see is doing well and just ask if you can chat with them, pick their brain. Yeah.
So thank you so much for picking this delicious coffee. It was great. I'm going to bump it up to a 7.2.
Okay.
Having drank it throughout this conversation. Yeah. But if someone was curious about you and wanted to ask you a couple more questions, would you be okay with that? Could you give out your email just so people could reach out to you? Or if they were obviously you're still in production, so if they wanted to purchase at home or something, they could use you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure. You can reach me at through email, which is Marisa. It's spelled with one S, one R. Everyone spells it wrong, so I'll spell it for you. marisa@thesandsgrouptn.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And cheers.
Yes.